tragically, it's a norm. Every other person is like Travis Bickle now.
Martin Scorsese doesn't need to scream. He doesn't feud. He doesn't even explain. When an actor breaks his trust, they don't get warnings. They get silence. No calls. No second chances. Just a door that closes and never opens again. For decades, Scorsese has built masterpieces on control. Every frame exact. Every pause deliberate. He gave immortality to legends like De Niro, Pesci, and DiCaprio. But others? They vanished, erased from his world as if they never existed. Today, we reveal the 5 actors who clashed with Martin Scorsese and paid the price. Mark Wahlberg wasn't just another actor on The Departed. He was the wild card. Scorsese cast him as Sergeant Dynam, a character meant to be explosive, unpredictable, and brutally sharp. Wahlberg fit the part perfectly, almost too perfectly. But before cameras rolled, the trouble began. Wahlberg had just come off filming Invincible, where he wore hair extensions for the role. When he showed up to Scorsese's set, he still had them. To anyone else, it was a small detail. To Scorsese, it was sacrilege. His films demanded authenticity. If one thing felt fake, the whole illusion collapsed. Scorsese told him flatly, "Cut it." Wahlberg refused. He didn't see the problem. He wasn't about to change his look just because of a note. That small act of defiance cracked the foundation of trust between them. The tension carried on to the set. Wahlberg was loud, confrontational, and unfiltered, traits that made Dynam unforgettable on screen. But behind the camera, it rubbed Scorsese raw. Scorsese's sets were precise machines. Everyone had to fall into rhythm. Wahlberg brought chaos. Still, the performance worked. Audiences loved him. Critics raved. Wahlberg even earned his only Academy Award nomination. On paper, it was a triumph. But Scorsese saw something else. He saw an actor who resisted discipline, who challenged his authority, who broke the invisible rules of his world. And for Scorsese, that was unforgivable. When The Departed ended, so did their collaboration. No follow-up calls, no reunion. Wahlberg's performance may have earned him gold at the Oscars, but it cost him platinum with Scorsese. Because in Scorsese's universe, talent can open the door, but only loyalty keeps it from slamming shut. James Caan wasn't just another actor looking for work. He was one of the hottest names in Hollywood. The Godfather had turned him into a star. His energy was raw, his presence magnetic, and audiences couldn't look away when he was on screen. Scorsese saw that fire and thought, "This is a man who could bring my stories to life." The two nearly joined forces in the 1970s, at a time when Scorsese was defining his style, and Caan was hungry for projects that matched his intensity. On paper, it should have been a match made in cinematic history. But once rehearsals began, everything started to fracture. Caan thrived on instinct. He wasn't the kind of actor who clung to a script. He'd improvise, change lines, riff in the middle of scenes. To him, that unpredictability was the soul of great acting. But to Scorsese, it was pure chaos. Scorsese's vision was meticulous. Every pause, every camera angle, every silence had a purpose. An actor who ignored the map was an actor tearing holes in the fabric of the story. At first, they tried to meet in the middle. Caan would throw out lines, Scorsese would pull him back in, and the cycle would repeat. But the tension kept rising. Crew members recalled heated conversations where neither man wanted to give an inch. Caan believed the character had to breathe on its own. Scorsese believed the character had to stay inside the world he built. It came to a breaking point. The project collapsed. Scripts stalled. Production slowed until finally Scorsese walked away. To him, the movie was already lost. To Caan, it was another door slammed shut. They never worked together again. No cameos, no reunions, not even whispers of a second attempt. Caan went on to other roles, but in Scorsese's universe, his chapter ended before it ever truly began. Caan later admitted in interviews that the chemistry just wasn't there. He respected Scorsese, but said they spoke different languages. For Scorsese, that mismatch was worse than conflict. It was final. Because in his world, actors don't just need talent. They need to move with his rhythm. And James Caan, no matter how brilliant, couldn't keep the beat. Julia Roberts was Hollywood's golden star, America's sweetheart. And for a moment, it looked like she might join Martin Scorsese's world. The project was The Age of Innocence in 1993, a period drama dripping with restraint, elegance, and hidden emotion. Scorsese considered Roberts for the role of Ellen Olenska. On paper, it was perfection. The biggest actress paired with one of cinema's greatest directors. But the dream unraveled fast. Roberts thrived on freedom, fast shoots, natural charm, emotional instinct. Scorsese demanded the opposite: obsession over costumes, historical accuracy down to the smallest gesture. Hours of rehearsals, where every pause mattered. Roberts resisted. She questioned the dialogue, the costumes, the rigidity. And worst of all, she admitted the role felt emotionally distant, like a cage instead of a performance. That was it. She walked away. Scorsese replaced her with Michelle Pfeiffer, who slid into the role seamlessly. Roberts went on to win Oscars. Scorsese kept making masterpieces. But the door between them, it slammed shut. They never tried again. Because in Scorsese's world, if the energy doesn't align, it's not a delay, it's a dead end. And the next story proves it wasn't just casting talks that failed. Sometimes the battle happened right there on set. Winona Ryder was Hollywood's rebel queen. From Heathers to Edward Scissorhands, she carried an energy that was electric, unpredictable, and alive. Every director wanted that spark. And when Scorsese cast her in The Age of Innocence, it felt like a perfect union. A young star colliding with one of cinema's greatest minds. But on set, something went wrong. Ryder was cast as May Welland, a character built on silence and repression. A woman who didn't explode with passion, but buried it under layers of restraint. To Scorsese, the role was a test of subtlety. To Ryder, it felt like a prison. She struggled. Her gift was raw expression, the glance that cut deep, the outburst that shook the screen. But Scorsese demanded stillness, control. Every move was mapped, every pause was scripted. There was no chaos allowed. Ryder later admitted it. "I didn't fully understand May." And Scorsese saw it in her performance. She was trying, but the role drained the very thing that made her shine. The set grew tense. What was supposed to be collaboration felt like quiet resistance. Ryder finished the film. She delivered professionalism, even beauty in the role. But the connection between her and Scorsese was gone. She was absent from promotion, absent from the spotlight, and soon absent from his world entirely. No calls. No second chance. It wasn't rage that ended it. It was disappointment. And in Scorsese's universe, disappointment is deadlier than anger. Anger fades. Silence lasts forever. Winona Ryder, one of the brightest stars of her generation, had stepped into Scorsese's world and walked out colder than she entered. She wasn't blacklisted. She wasn't condemned. She was simply forgotten. Because in his world, you don't just play a character, you surrender to the rhythm. And Ryder, for all her brilliance, could never surrender. Jim Carrey almost stepped into Martin Scorsese's world, and if it had happened, it could have changed his entire career. In the early 2000s, Scorsese was preparing his Howard Hughes biopic, what would become The Aviator. And before Leonardo DiCaprio ever touched the role, the man Scorsese looked at was Jim Carrey. Carrey was obsessed. He started transforming himself into Hughes months before cameras were ready. He grew his hair, studied every photograph, every tic, every paranoid whisper about the billionaire's life. Carrey wanted to prove he wasn't just the king of comedy. He wanted to show the world he could become a legend of drama. But here's the problem. Carrey's genius was chaos. He thrived on improvisation, on bending rules, on twisting a line until it turned into something nobody expected. And Scorsese demanded order. Every gesture controlled, every pause locked into place. The clash was brutal. Carrey pushed to explore. Scorsese pushed to confine. Rehearsals grew tense. Energy cracked. And deep down, Scorsese knew. If he gambled on Carrey, the entire film might spiral into madness. So he made the call. Quiet, cold, final. Carrey was out. Leonardo DiCaprio was in. The result? The Aviator became an Oscar-winning masterpiece. For Scorsese, it was vindication. For Jim Carrey, it was heartbreak. He later admitted losing the role shattered him. But Scorsese never looked back. No cameos, no second chance, just silence. Because in Martin Scorsese's world, you can have talent, you can have passion, you can even have genius. But if your chaos threatens his vision, you are gone. And Jim Carrey, one of the most gifted performers of his generation, learned that the hard way. And Martin Scorsese has worked with the greatest actors of all time, De Niro, Pesci, DiCaprio. Together, they built masterpieces that defined entire eras of cinema. But as we've seen, not everyone survived his world. Mark Wahlberg clashed with discipline. James Caan's fire burned against Scorsese's steel. Julia Roberts walked away before the story even began. Winona Ryder couldn't surrender her chaos to his order. And Jim Carrey's genius was too wild to be contained. 5 stars, 5 different reasons, but one single truth. In Martin Scorsese's universe, talent is not enough. You can be brilliant, you can be legendary, but if you break his rhythm, you're gone. Not with a scream, not with a fight, with silence. Because in Hollywood, most directors will forgive, most will bend. But Scorsese, he never bends. He never looks back. And maybe that's the secret to his power. The discipline, the loyalty, the demand for absolute surrender to the story. So the question remains, who else almost ended up on this silent blacklist? Who do you think Scorsese quietly erased from his world? Drop your guesses in the comments. And remember, in Scorsese's world, the greatest honor isn't getting cast, it's staying there.